My presentation will be as follows. I would like to give you a brief overview on what ZEEP is all about. From there, I'll take you into what component 1.1 focuses on, and we need to know what the objectives and the targets are for the component, which is basically the reason we are here, and also we'll look at how best this particular component is focusing on its implementation arrangements. Then we'll go into briefly highlighting to you what the key activities to be undertaken in the lifespan of the project under this subcomponent are. And I'll indicate to you what we refer to as disbursement linked indicators and how far we've gone in attaining those indicators. Lastly, I'll conclude. So under the ZEEP overview, you should all know that this particular project is a loan from the World Bank, and the country, through the Ministry of General Education, has gotten a loan of $60 million US, which we need to use to spend on improving the quality of teaching and learning. Ministry is the Ministry of General Education, and then the project development objective is to improve the quality of teaching and learning. And we are going to improve this quality of teaching and learning by focusing currently on two subject areas, that is maths and science. And we are aware that we've come in those two categories. You're either a maths teacher or a science teacher. Besides that, we also would like to increase access to secondary education. Some of you are coming from schools we are calling expansion schools. Those are the schools that are being built by the World Bank. They are commonly known as ZEEP schools. The project has three components, and we have component 1, which looks at how to improve the quality of teaching and learning, and it's broken down into two sub-components. The first sub-component is called teacher quality, and that's where I'm a coordinator. Under this particular sub-component, we are looking at how best we can strengthen the teacher training systems. So the teacher training systems, we are basically looking at both the in-service teachers as well as pre-service teachers, and not leaving out what is happening in colleges of education. We don't just need quality personnel to work, but we also should have the quality materials to use in order to help us improve that. So under component 1.2, we are looking at a situation where, through the project, schools will be able to have textbooks in such a way that each learner will have his or her own textbooks. I'm sure you can concur with me that currently you would find out that one textbook is being shared maybe by 5 or even more learners, and that compromises on quality of teaching and learning. So under this project, we will see to it that at the end of the project, we have a 1-to-1 ratio in terms of one learner and one book, textbook, so that we do away with the issue of sharing. The second component is the one that focuses on increasing equitable access to secondary education by building schools. We are building 82 schools in 7 provinces, and the 7 provinces excludes Copperbelt, Northwestern and Western Province. The rest of the provinces are benefiting from that. Then the third component is one which looks at how we can enhance capacity building And I'm sure we are all here for that purpose, not so. At the end of the meeting or the workshop, you will not go back the person you came. You go back a different person because you will have been capacity built and you have a lot of information to go and share out there. We are also looking at how best we can enhance project coordination and monitoring and evaluation, as well as the management of the project. I indicated that currently we have those three components under the project. Possibly in future we may have more. Allow me to take you into what component 1.1 focuses on. So the objective of component 1.1 is to strengthen the teacher training systems. We know that once we strengthen this, we are going to improve or to add value to the improvement of quality teaching and learning in our learning institutions. This particular component is being implemented in all the 10 provinces. So no province has been left behind, and from the 10 provinces, we've identified 382 schools as our targets. Now, these 382 schools are broken down as follows. We have 200 schools which are primary, 100 schools which are secondary. Then the 82 schools are the ones we are calling expansion schools, the ones which are being built, but they are also secondary. So basically we are talking about 200 primary schools and 182 secondary schools. From these institutions, we've identified staff who we are training as a trainer of trainers, and you happen to be amongst the chosen staff who the project through the ministry is looking up to enable it improve quality of teaching and learning. So these teachers and lecturers, we have also got lecturers, they were selected on merit. Through the ministry, the Office of the PS, we had indicated to provinces to identify teachers who have skills in facilitation besides being good in your subject area. So I suppose that every person who's here has those skills, and he or she will be amongst the people who bring change that has been long desired by the ministry in the area of improving quality teaching and learning in maths and science. So we have, from the 200 primary schools, we identified 2 teachers from each school, 1 for maths and 1 for science. From the 100 secondary schools, we did the same, and from the 82 expansion schools, we also did the same, and we came up now with a total of 764 teachers. We have not left out the colleges of education, because even there we have our pre-service teachers who are being trained, and we also have the lecturers. So we've identified all the public colleges of education, and these are in all the provinces except the hosting province. Then from the colleges of education, we identified 60 lecturers. Those 60 lecturers were coming as 5 lecturers from each college of education, 1 for maths, and the other 4 are for sciences. The science was broken down into 4 categories. We have biology, physics, chemistry, and agricultural science. Now, we need to improve teaching and learning basically at grades 1 to 5 and 8 to 9. Of course, this will roll out to other grades, but our main focus currently is looking at how schools. So, considering the national examination results for the year 2014, 2015, and 2016, it indicated that certain districts performed poorly in maths and science at grade 7 as well as at grade 9. So we had to identify those schools by looking at the districts. Since we are focusing on all the 10 provinces, it means all the provinces were culprits, because no province was left behind in terms of not having schools that never performed well in maths and science. So from each province, we had now to pick some schools. First, we identified the poorly performing districts in those provinces. Now, we are all from there, not so? Now, if your district is not indicated there, you are coming from a district where the project has seen need to build a secondary school. So you are representing an expansion school. So from Central Province, if you've come from Itezteji or Chisamba, we want to see change in those districts because they do not perform well in maths and science, and you have been identified to bring the change that has been long desired by the ministry. I'm sure you will not fail us. Remember, I had indicated that this project is a loan. Since it is a loan and we are here, we've already started taking part of that money. We've taken some water and snacks, which the country needs to pay back. Therefore, we should use it wisely. Now, we are using Serenja as our control district. And from the Copper Belt, we have Luansh and Masaiti that never performed well, and we are now using Lufwanyama as our control district. Eastern Province, we have Vubwi. And when the project just commenced, we had identified Chipata. But with time, Chipata gave birth to 2 more districts. And now it has 3, instead of being 1 district, we have 3. People who came from maybe, let's say, Shuangandu, there were more people from Shuangandu, as well as from Mafinga. And you were like, because at that time you didn't know the criteria we had used to select those people. They have actually come from the districts where we need to take change in improving the quality of teaching and learning and in maths and science, because those districts do not perform well, and that's why we have more teachers. And where we were having maybe 2 teachers stand to say they are from this particular district, it means that's where we are building a school. And then there's only 1 school being built in that particular district. Hence the variations on numbers of officers who've come here. So now, how are we going to implement activities under this component in order to enable us bring in the quality that we are looking at? Our focus is on seeing to it that we improve the teaching competencies and skills, because we know that a quality teacher will bring quality teaching and learning. You can't teach things you don't know. You need first to know what to teach and how to teach. So we will not only look at content, but we'll also look at the pedagogy part. How best are you at teaching and sharing information with others in order to bring change? So there are a number of stakeholders who are key to making to it that this particular component becomes a success and the objective is achieved. So basically I would say that all directorates are represented. Then we have the Examinations Council of Zambia. We also have the Teaching Council of Zambia, Teaching Service Commission, universities, and many others who we know have an impact in bringing the quality change in teaching and learning that we desire. In all we are doing under this particular component, we have a directorate that is leading in implementing the activities. And this directorate is the Directorate of Teacher Education and Specialized Services. The reason we have representatives for that particular directorate from the provinces, commonly known as EOTED. We are still calling them EOTED. Those officers are here representing TES. And the facilitators, most of the facilitators you have are coming from that directorate. But then they are not working alone, because we want to see change where every other stakeholder who has key in bringing that quality teaching and learning also takes part. So we also have officers coming from standards and CDC. We also have those coming from universities, colleges of education, and the Teaching Council of Zambia. And in some other meetings we've had, we've also been represented by officers from the Teaching Service Commission, Early Childhood Education, Open and Distance Education, including National Science Center. So all these will be working with us to see to it that we achieve the objective for this particular component. But there is a committee which is called the Project Implementation Steering Committee, which oversees implementation of activities under this component, and they are headed by the Permanent Secretary. This committee has other members, including directors and POs and others. To implement activities, this particular component has come up with what we call task forces. These are small like committees within the component, which are basically focusing on key activities which we need to implement and seeing to it that they are done. For example, we have developed materials, and there's a task force which was in charge of material development. We also have a task force which is in charge of training. What is happening now is like we are training the TOTs, so we also have that task force and many other task forces. Since this particular component is not bringing in new things, but working within what we've had in the ministry, we are not running away from using the sprint framework. And so we have to include the pre-service, in-service, and also we are aware that the participants we have are knowledgeable in lesson study as they are facilitators. We are also going to make very good use of resource centers. And that's why we have the PRCCs and DRCCs in our midst. The component has something like a loop. That's what we'll be using to implement all activities. We have 3 surveys to be done in the lifespan of the project. This involves the collection of data, measuring that data, analyzing, and from the analysis, we are coming up with material based on areas identified as areas of intervention. Then we'll go to training. That's where we are. And then we will evaluate the training and still go back to collection of data until at the end of the project we'll need to review and recommend so that we can see whether we can roll out to other districts. And then we expect that at the end of the project there will be change in those schools. They will no longer be poor performing schools in maths and science, but they will get somewhere where we should be able to see change. And that's the only way we are going to justify the $60 million that we've gotten. So we've identified the pilot or project schools and the districts. I've already mentioned the districts we are intervening in. And the schools are the schools where you have come from. Those are the pilot schools. And we've identified all the 764 teachers to be trained and the 60 lecturers. Then we've developed materials and we've done facilitator training. that is what we are doing now for 3 provinces. We've already trained Copperbelt, Northwestern, and Wapula province. So we are now training Muchinga, Central, and Northern province. From here, we have to train Lusaka and Eastern province, and the last team to be trained will be Western province and Southern province. As we train, there will be a lot of monitoring which will take place, because we expect the teachers to immediately start implementing what they will have learned, and that's why we have our pesos here as our eyes to see to it that what you have been trained in, you go and implement. Then we are looking at how best we can come up with what we call a teacher development data platform, where we can be throwing information on whatever we'll be learning, so that you have access to that. I'm sure by the time you leave, you will have known some skills on how to upload data and so on. I talked about the surveys. So the surveys we have the baseline, midline, and endline. We've already undertaken the baseline and identified the training needs, and that's the reason we are here, because the materials have now been developed based on those needs. We found out that the teachers and the learners, it's like they were not performing well in certain areas, a sign that the teacher cannot teach what he or she does not know. So in year 3, we will have a midline, and we want to see change. The midline will take place after your training and you've interacted with your learners. We'll still get back to you to find out whether there's change or not. And in the 5th year, we are going to have the endline survey. As emphasized, please take the change to your schools that the ministry desires in your subject area. See to it that that learner who's not performing well improves, because you'll be given the skills and the competencies you need in order for you to go and take change in that institution you've come from. As much as possible, use the existing lesson study framework. Learn to interact in teacher group meetings. And as a facilitator, the ones who, all of you are being trained. You were identified as facilitators, and we still consider you as facilitators. Take lead in discussions in your TGMs as you go back. Learn also to share the practices. We couldn't invite everyone in that school, but we were the only maths teacher picked, the only science teacher picked from that school. We expect you to go and share with everyone who has remained. So you are representing your school, and the change should come in depending on how you are going to share your experiences. So you are our ambassador, and you are the one who's going to be answerable if there will be no change at that school you have come from. Remember, you can't do anything alone. We need each other. In whatever you are doing, teamwork is very important, as it multiply or divides the task and multiplies the success. When you work as a team, you'll be able to achieve more. Wishing you abundant blessings. Thank you for your attention.